Look, if we go back to the mid-90s, Audi was in a bit of a weird spot. Everyone knew they built fantastic cars, solid engineering, great quality, but honestly, you bought an Audi if you wanted a safe, conservative sedan or a practical wagon. Now, it's not like they didn't have anything cool. They had that massive Quattro rally history to lean on, but they needed something to bridge that gap between reliable daily driver and track-ready icon. That's exactly where this car comes in. So, let's get into it. Here is absolutely everything you need to know about the Audi TT. For a long time, it was almost trendy to hate on this car. You've probably heard people call it a Golf in a dress, just because it shared that PQ34 platform with the Mark IV Golf. But honestly, that's such a lazy take. Think about it this way. This actually gave Audi a rock-solid, reliable foundation right out of the gate. Since they weren't reinventing the wheel on the chassis, they could dump all their money into the stuff that really made the car special. When you pop the hood, you're looking at a 1.8-liter turbo engine. It was a seriously cool piece of engineering for its era, especially with that famous 20-valve head that used 3 intake and 2 exhaust valves per cylinder. The whole personality of the car really depended on which version you had. The base model gave you about 180 horses using a smaller K03 turbo and a 5-speed manual, which was plenty quick for most people. But if you were a real enthusiast, the 222 horsepower version was the holy grail. Audi didn't just dial up the boost and call it a day, they actually went to town on the hardware. They threw in a bigger K04 turbo, squeezed an extra intercooler onto the left side, and even came paired with a 6-speed manual. For the late 90s, it was genuinely fast, hitting 0 to 60 in about 6.4 seconds, which definitely earned it some respect on the road. By 2003, Audi decided to shake things up again by stuffing it with the 3.2-liter VR6 engine from the Golf R32. It bumped the power up to 250 horses, but even with that engine, the actual game changer was the transmission because it was basically the launch pad for the DSG DCT. It was the first time we really saw a dual-clutch gearbox in a car like this. It basically introduced paddle shifters to the average driver and set the blueprint for almost every modern performance car that's come out since. Then, right as the production was winding down in 2005, Audi finally gave us the holy grail of the lineup, the TT Quattro Sport, aka the Club Sport in Europe. This was a super rare, limited edition. Only about 1,100 were ever made. They went on a serious weight-saving mission, stripping the car out by ditching the rear seats, the spare tire, and even the air conditioning. All said and done, they managed to shed about 165 pounds. Also, that 1.8-liter turbo engine was tuned to its highest output of 237 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. It finally drove the way everyone wanted it to drive from the start. And with a 0 to 60 time of just 5.9 seconds, it's easily the most collectible model on the market today. So, here's the thing about the Mark I. By 2006, it was already a total design icon. It looked incredible, but it drove like a hatchback. When Audi set out to build the second generation, the Type 8J, they knew they had to step it up and prove they could actually deliver a proper sports car. Their secret sauce was really in the engineering of the chassis. Instead of sticking with a heavy all-steel frame, they used their Audi Space Frame tech to pull off this clever hybrid move where the front 69% of the car was aluminum and only the rear 31% was steel. Now, if you are in the market for one of these, you need to listen because the engine situation is a bit of a roller coaster. If you end up with an early model from 2006 to 2010, you're looking at the EA113 engine. That's the 2-liter with a timing belt, the same one they put in the Mark V Golf GTI. It's got an iron block, and it's basically tough as nails, which makes it a fantastic choice if you're planning on doing any tuning. But things got messy from 2010 to 2014 when they switched over to the EA888 Gen 2. On paper, it seemed like an upgrade because it moved to a timing chain and featured better tech, but it actually had a massive engineering flaw. The piston rings were total garbage, and the oil drainage holes were way too small, which led to that infamous oil consumption scandal. They were burning through a quart of oil every 500 miles, which eventually just destroys engines with nasty carbon buildup. So if you're looking at one of those later models, you absolutely have to verify that those issues were actually fixed before you hand over any cash. The absolute peak of this whole generation has to be when the TT RS dropped in 2009. Audi finally went back to its roots and dropped in a turbocharged 5-cylinder under the hood, which honestly gave off some major Group B rally vibes. That 2.5-liter engine is a total masterpiece. It has this specific firing order that makes it sound just like a baby V10. You're looking at 335 horses, or even 360 if you find the Plus version, and it could hit 60 miles per hour in the low 4-second range. But the coolest part, especially for us here in North America, is that you could actually get it with a 6-speed manual. It single-handedly killed off any old stereotypes it had, and legit gave the Porsche 911 a serious run for its money. Then we get to the third and the final generation, the Type 8S, which made a huge splash when it arrived in 2014. One of the smartest moves Audi made was building it on their MQB platform, because it managed to drop a significant amount of weight while actually making the whole frame stiffer and more rigid. They really dialed in the styling too, giving it a much sharper look with that grille and those aggressive matrix LED headlights. But my favorite detail is where they put the 4-ring logo. They moved it off the grille and right onto the hood. It sounds like a small tweak, but it's actually a pretty bold statement because Audi only does that for their top-tier sports cars, the R8 and the TT. When it comes to pure performance, the TT RS really took that iconic 5-cylinder legacy to a whole different level. Audi basically rebuilt that 2.5-liter engine from the ground up, switching over to an aluminum block, which trimmed about 57 pounds compared to the old heavy iron one. That weight saving is huge, but the power is even crazier. They tuned it to pump out a massive 400 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. When you hook that engine up to the 7-speed S-Tronic dual clutch and their latest Haldex Quattro system, the car basically turns into a rocket ship. It'll do 0 to 60 in just 3.6 seconds and can even dip into the 11-second range for a quarter mile. Honestly, it's wild to think you're getting that kind of hypercar-level acceleration out of a small, everyday coupe. It's honestly pretty sad, but all good things have to come to an end eventually. After a legendary 25-year run, Audi officially decided to retire the TT in 2023. Though they definitely made sure it went out with a bang by releasing some incredible special editions. Over in the UK and Europe, they released a final edition that looked super sharp with a black styling pack, a fixed rear wing, and a high-end interior full of Alcantara and extended leather. They also did a hyper-limited, iconic edition for the European market, only 100 of those exist, which was based on the RS and came with a really aggressive aero kit, including front canards and a massive wing. For those of us in the US, we got something a bit more nostalgic, a limited run of TT Roadster Heritage Edition, and everything finally wrapped up in November 2023 with the very last car, number 662,762, rolled off the assembly line for good. Looking back, it left behind a legacy that is definitely complicated, but you can't deny the impact it had. While it may never offer the tactile purity of a Porsche Boxster, it still gave performance that was actually accessible, usable, and genuinely impressive for daily life. Also, in a world of aggressive, over-styled SUVs, the pure geometry of the Audi TT will be missed.